Hey guys, it's Coach KJ, and I'm here at UNC, of course, the most beautiful, fabulous campus in the world. Wait, I can't do Carolina in there. Well, that's kind of Carolina, I guess you kind of see. And I'm here talking with
James.
from,
I'm from Topsail, North Carolina.
okay, and we're actually talking about mental health. We're talking about my books. We're talking about you name it. We've talked about a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. And so we've talked about autism. We've talked about just a lot of different things. And so James was asking me. He said, basically. Well, first of all, tell me a little about you. Tell me a little about you, and then I'll tell you.
Well, I'm an undergrad student at UNC. I'm going into my junior year. Here for the summer on campus, taking some summer classes, and I'm working at RSI, which is a caretaking facility for autistic and mentally disabled people. And yeah, I was just out here studying on a Sunday for my chemistry exam coming up.
And so let me ask you something. What is the most interesting thing or surprising thing that you've learned about working in the autism environment? And well, first of all, why'd you go there? Why did you pick RSI?
Honestly, I just had a friend who was doing it, and he just recommended it. He said, it's a good experience. You learn a lot of patience, so that was one thing that I was looking forward to. And then what was your other question? The first question?
I said, what have you learned? What
have I learned?
What's been surprising?
I've actually learned a lot. So most of the people we work with are nonverbal, and
ages
30 to 50.
Okay.
And right off the bat when I got there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do everything for them. But some of them that you would think that because they're nonverbal and because I don't know, they can't really communicate, you'd think they wouldn't be able to do anything. But some of them that are more incapable of communicating are actually more capable of doing things like brushing their teeth, taking their own, bathing themselves. Some of them can even do chores, take out the trash, sweep the floors and stuff. So I think that it's kind of a misunderstanding. These people are a lot more capable than some people give them credit for, just because they can't communicate.
Do they want to do it, or do you have to force them to do it?
Some of them want them to do it. You can't really force them to do anything. If you ask them to do something and they say no, you really
no
can't
means no, right?
Yeah. So, and that's part of the job. If they say no, you're not supposed to force them. So some of them want to, but it's hard sometimes to get them to.
Cool. Yeah. And so then while we were talking, he said, well, have you worked with, what's the question is about?
I asked you about people who have ADHD, how it seems to be a rising amount of people who have ADHD, especially on UNC's campus.
So the funniest thing is, last week I went to a grocery store and I met a gentleman who was diagnosed with ADHD, high school student, and 4 of his friends were also diagnosed with ADHD in the same week, the previous week, and prescribed Adderall. Then I went to Jiffy Lube to get my car done, and the gentleman there was telling me that he and his 2 siblings, 3 of them were diagnosed with ADHD and put on Adderall. And the Adderall worked extremely well for his brother, but did not work well for him. And then 2 people came to do service at the house, and they also mentioned that their sons were, oh my God, my arm is killing me. I think that's old age. Were diagnosed with Adderall. Were diagnosed and diagnosed and suggested to put on Adderall, but they fought against it and they weren't. So the gentleman at Jiffy Lube was telling me, he said that they put him on Adderall, and what they found was that he was, what he found is he was focused more on his handwriting and his penmanship than he was on the content of essays and paperwork. And he said it causes you to hyper-focus if you have the wrong dosage. So a part of the key thing is making sure that if you are diagnosed, that you have the right dosage of medicine. So you asked me, did I work with it? So what I've been doing since basically 1999 is I've been working with autism and autistic-like traits. My sons had challenges. My older son was born with pataki on his face, red blotches, which meant that he had stress, which meant that he would have an immunodeficiency later on in life. And my youngest son, I had the chickenpox vaccine and Lyme's disease, so that meant that he would suffer with immunodeficiencies as well. Immunodeficiencies can mirror autism. And so, can you hold this? I'm older.
Yeah.
Thank you. My arm is thank you. And so they can mirror autism and ADHD. So right now, there are people who have immunodeficiencies, there are people who've experienced trauma. And when I say trauma, I'm talking a couple of different types of trauma. So trauma could be taking the wrong medication, which actually traumatizes your immune system and it traumatizes your immune system. There's also physical violence, such as a concussion, a fall, anything like that can actually challenge you physically, but also challenge your immune system. A lot of people don't know that concussions cause deficiencies in the immune system, in the processing of the immune system.
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you have a blow to the head, it can actually cause hypergammaglobulinemia, which means that your immune system starts to overact, right? It starts to be more aggressive in fighting off the trauma, right? The impact of the trauma. And what happens is the microglia that's in the brain becomes active, and it starts to actually attack healthy brain cells, as well as the area that has been traumatized, the infection, the virus, or whatever it may be that exists.
That's pretty funny you say that, because I had a bad concussion when I was younger, and I noticed that like I get sick all the time. Like, I didn't know there was a correlation there at all.
So there are several high schools, and not all, several high schools that actually have a protocol that they give students antibiotics before the concussions occur, because it helps to, if you have a concussion, it gives a heavier, more impactful onset, but what it also does is it allows a quicker recovery, right? So you will meet the 2-week concussion protocol. So you can go back to play and do whatever you're supposed to do in 2 weeks. Sometimes people don't have that complete recovery. So imagine having a concussion and then only recovering 80%. Now you still, through implicit memory means that you just memorize plays and stuff like that, kind of like how you memorize tying your shoe. You can continue to play, but you still may not have a full recovery in your head, full neurological recovery. So what happens is, because you're at 80%, you get another concussion and another concussion and another concussion, and it gets worse. And that's where you're talking about like the CTE with the repetitive hits and blows and stuff like that. Now that can, because your central nervous system is working overtime, trying to compensate for the deficiency in your immune system, that can mirror autistic-like traits and ADHD traits. All right. So if your central nervous system is going like this, it's harder to focus on what needs to be done in front of you, right? Because you're trying to suppress it. You're also trying to mask those insecurities, or those imperfections, right? So if I'm with my friends, I don't want to walk around every day and say my head hurts, right?
Yeah.
I might say my head hurts, but after the second, third time, they're like, man, go ahead. Really? That was a week ago. And then there's also coup contre coup. Do you know what that is?
No.
A coup contre coup injury. So that means that if I get hit on the right side of my head, the shift can actually cause the pain on the left side of my head. So if I come to you and I'm like, man, the left side of my head is hurting, and you're like, really? You got hit on the right side? Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. What you been drinking? And so what happens is, I start to think that it's a fictitious wound, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What's that name? It begins with an M. I can't remember. It's where you self-describe. Munchausen syndrome. I can't remember. It begins with an M. But anyway, you start to project this, and people are like, no, because they're not familiar with coup contre coup. So there are a lot of things that can cause an exacerbation of pain and overactivity in the immune system, as well as the central nervous system. And once again, that type of internal challenge can appear or present as an external challenge. And that's how so many people are misdiagnosed with autism and misdiagnosed with ADHD, because they're unaware of some of the other things that are going on.
Wow.
And then through epigenetics, it can happen to the parents, and then it can be passed down to the fetus at the time of birth. The immunodeficiencies in the challenge.
I thought epigenetics were like to the individual. Like, you don't pass down epigenetics. I thought that's like epigenetics, or like the what's the word?
So if the parents experience trauma, right? If I as a mom experience trauma, and I then give birth to a child, or I get pregnant, or the dad experiences trauma, through the birth process, I can pass down a weakened or a compromised immune system to the child, because my trauma was never resolved as a parent.
My arm's getting tired.
Okay, so basically, that's the general gist of it. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about autism and how amazing kids 30 to 50 years old are and what they can do independently, as well as ADHD and what else did we talk about? Quiz. You're in college.
Concussions and what's the word for the you've said it 3 times. Something syndrome. I can't remember.
Murchison syndrome?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's it. Thanks so much, guys. Hope you guys got something out of this. Take care.